live. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for all of you that were waiting. Oh, I actually don't know. Looks like my screen is blank. Oh, there we are. There we are. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Friday live stream. How are you all doing? What is going on? Hello, Elvina. Hello, Caleb. Hello, Devali. Welcome, James. Welcome, Lydia. Welcome, thanks, Moo. Welcome, Leo. Welcome, Steve. Welcome, Caseyella. Welcome, Nathan. Welcome, Erica. Welcome, John. Welcome, Ram. Welcome, everyone. Hello, Buck. Welcome, Steve. Welcome, Audrey. Hi. Hi, hi, hi. Hasn't it been a week? It's been a week, hasn't it? It's been, oh my goodness, life has been crazy. I am excited to be here with you all and maybe just talk about some fun BDSM stuff for a while. How about that? How about we do that? Hi, Amy. Yeah, haven't seen you in a while. Hope you are doing well, Amy. Welcome, Zernicki. Welcome, Dead. Welcome, Phil's Violet. Hello, everyone. So, really quick, this is an 18 plus only live stream, like it says right below me down there. Please do read the rules and the FAQ. If you are new here, do not spam my chat or I will block you. This is an interactive Q&A live stream where we talk about BDSM, kink, fetish, lots of words for the same thing. Polyamory, asexuality, all of that good stuff. And yeah, that is what we are here to do today. I do usually start us off with like a theme for the title, but we don't have to stay there. Any sort of questions that you want to ask or things about a recent video or hot topics or whatever else, you can also ask me that, or we can just talk about fucking anime and J fashion and emo revival outfits, I guess. I don't know. I haven't ever done the fishnet and t-shirt look before because I feel like it looks super it looks super mall goth. Like when I was growing up, I feel like the Zoomers must have a different perspective on this. But when I was growing up, you did not want to do the mall goth look. You were such a poser if you looked like a mall goth. You were gonna get rejected. You were gonna get rejected by the regular normie kids, and you were gonna get rejected by the alternative kids. So anything involving like a striped shirt under a regular shirt or fishnets under like a baggy shirt, it just was not a look. It was not a thing when I was younger, and now it's popping back around. So we're trying it out today, seeing how it feels. I like playing with fishnets, and I'm a very like fiddly person, so that's maybe part of the reason why I shouldn't wear it, but we're trying things out today. So that is basically what we're doing today, Q&A time. And I was recently browsing a subreddit that's called r/BDSM community. I have recommended it or talked about it numerous times in different videos, but not recently. And they had like a top post on there today that I think the title of it was like, oh, I don't want to misquote it. I should probably just look it up. Just give me a second. I don't want to like make it sound like it's about something that it's not. But it was something to the effect of like, how do we solve like the brat like perception problem or something like that. What was it? Let me see here. How can we destigmatize brats? And there was like a discussion about brats. I think it happened the day before that I missed, and maybe I'll just read it for you guys. I don't know, maybe I'll make like a video topic out of this if that sounds interesting, but I'll read that out and we can talk about it. And also just I've been thinking a lot more also about like CGL and DDLG. I have like a bunch of video ideas right now for so many things. I'm working on a video talking about like different categories of service. I have a video in my head that I want to work on for giving advice, one for brat tamers and then one for mommy doms and daddy doms, like caregivers in general, like introductions to that. Because I find that actually when you look into who's getting into like DDLG and CGL and that kind of stuff and playing with brats, I know there are a lot of people that are like, great, I'm a brat, I am a little, I want to do this. And it tends to be more the partners of people that are brats and or littles that are like, what do I do? Give me advice. What the fuck's happening? I looked at a sippy cup in 20 years. Like, what do I do? And so I thought it would be good maybe to have some resource videos, because there are definitely channels that I've seen, though none that are like really active at posting, that I can like recommend for you guys to go and watch. There are definitely people who have talked about being a caregiver or getting started in doing that, but there's not like a lot of resources. So that's kind of been on my brain lately, and maybe we could talk about that, and maybe that'll kind of end up being something that pops up in a video. I don't know. And that's kind of what's been brewing in my brain lately. And there's 2 new books that I haven't started reading yet, but I will be reading shortly. There is a science-y book that is called Hurt So Good, The Science and Culture of Pain on Purpose. So if you're maybe a sadomasochist, that could be a fun book to read. And then another sort of, I think, newer, yeah, it's from October of this past year. It's called Yes, Mistress, Why Men Crave Female Domination. So those are on my reading list. That's what's been on my brain lately. But yeah, so this Reddit post I saw earlier today, which it feels really weird right now to just be like browsing Reddit and being like, things are normal. This is a normal thing to do. But and let me know how the audio is. I feel like I was maybe peaking for a little bit. But anyways, so the Reddit post said, so yesterday's discussion on bratting. Not gonna lie, the comment section was a little depressing for me as a brat. I know personally I really struggled with feeling seen in the BDSM community. When someone asks you your role and you say you're a brat, 9 times out of 10 you're met with, oh, so you're not as submissive, or these are fake subs, or oh, so you abuse your dom, and it's exhausting. Yes, abusive brats exist, just like abusive doms exist. There are those in this role who use it to just be disrespectful and have no understanding of what it actually means. They violate boundaries and consent and give us all a bad rap. But here's my question. Why are we treating the brat community in general like it's invalid because of that smaller group? We don't say doms aren't valid because there are abusive ones, and yet you'll be hard-pressed to find a group in this community who gets stigmatized and invalidated more than brats. I would say ABDLs and age players get stigmatized more than brats do, but it's not a competition. I'm just saying, top of my head, I think, especially not just in the kink community, but outside of it, like people outside of the kink community like don't know what brats are and don't fuss about them. Every single video online that talks about DDLG and CGL inevitably gets brigaded by a bunch of people that think that all DDLG or all age play is pedophilia. Like that just is an inevitability, and that has to suck, you know, hearing that. I mean, I know what it's like getting comments like that on my videos because I see those all the time, but like I'm not a little, and so those don't personally affect me because it's like not part of my identity. So anyways, finishing up the last little paragraph here, how do we address this as a whole community? What will it take to break this brats are bad stigma that is so deeply ingrained in a lot of places, and instead focus on rooting out the toxic individuals? No one should have to constantly defend the validity of their role. So can we please start working towards a solution? The community will only be healthier for it. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what that would look like. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to this post in the chat just in case people want to like reference this in the future or whatever, or look at all the comments because I'm not going to be reading all the comments. But that's the link there, and I'll just give everyone a minute to sort of think about that, and I'll answer some of the initial questions because this is an interactive Q&A, and in order to keep everything as fair as possible, I do answer questions in the order that they come in, so please ask your questions early and often because I do usually almost always run out of time to get to everything. And if you also want to make sure that I answer your question, another great way to do that is with a super chat. You can see the $sign down there, and that will go through YouTube, or go to my Streamlabs, which is also down below. It'll pop up with a nice little message on the screen, and then it'll read out your question, and then I'll answer it right away. So that is kind of the topic on my brain currently. Oh my god, I'm a Pastel God alternative fashion Facebook group, and they have a rule: no DDLG content. The mod is literally king shaming DDLG. Wait, first of all, Pastel Goth is still around? Fascinating, because I remember that being on Tumblr, and I just can't. That's still a thing. If so, I love that for them. But I like that was like 10 years ago. That's amazing. But not amazing that they're using it. Fucking Lolita people do the same thing as well. People, listen. Before I comment on this, I'm gonna show proof that I have the credentials to comment on this. Hi. So anyways, I also wear Lolita fashion. This is Charlotte's Bear. It's by Angelic Pretty. Finding this print is really fucking hard and expensive. I have an entire closet of Lolita right there, okay? I'm going to a group meetup for swap meet in March, probably. Oh no, I moved my light by accident. Oh, wait, I have something else that's even more legit. I forgot. This is another dress that is by Allison and the Pirates. It is insanely hard to find. I got this for $200 on Frill or Rakuten, and I got it for like $200, even though it normally sells for like $600. So you know what? Okay, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to Lolita. So if anyone here clips this or sends this to like some Lolita YouTuber and is like, "Oh my God, they're talking about DDLG and Lolita," I know what I'm fucking talking about. Like. So, there's a lot of alternative fashion communities, be that goth, pastel goth, I guess, taking somebody else's word for it here, Lolita, that have very negative opinions about DDLG and about CGL in general. Yes, you have activated fashion, Evie. It is true. I don't wear Sweet Lolita. I don't wear like that's like one of the only Angelic Pretty prints that I own, but it's the most popular brand, so I thought I would share it. But I'm much more of an Atelier Boz and like an Atelier Perot kind of a person, but you know, it's harder to find. Anyways, a lot of those fashion communities are like somewhere between passively and like very actively anti DDLG and anti CGL. And I think part of this is like back on the Tumblr days, there was a lot of accidental, I'll say. I don't want to ascribe any sort of malice or like intention I don't know is there, but there was at least a lot of accidental overlap between people that were into CGL and DDLG and age play and people that were into various alternative fashions, especially J fashions and fashions that had a lot of overlap with more childish or pastel aesthetics. And it became kind of this all-out war where instead of just like people understanding that like because of the way the website is designed, you are going to see content that you don't necessarily want to see and use the mute button profusely, or block or whatever it is that Tumblr had. I don't remember what there was a way that you could block out certain search terms so you wouldn't see them. And I know there were some people that would like, they would put on their posts like, do not interact if like 18 plus BDSM CGL, like, and if people would reblog that, I think that was wrong. There's just like respect boundaries basically. But if the boundaries weren't stated, you know, if you saw a reblog of somebody else's post, you're not necessarily going to know that somebody didn't want that shared in certain parts of different Tumblr communities. And so people just got like really defensive and sort of painted everything with a broad brush because they didn't really understand it. And they're like, it's gross that you would want to do sexual things while wearing this fashion. What if I told you that most people have clothes on before they have sex, and they remove those clothes before having sex? Sometimes not all of them, sometimes a lot of them, including vanilla people that are into the fashion you're into. Just because spanking happens to be involved in one of them and not the other doesn't mean that it's suddenly worse. It was just very confusing, and a lot of like instead of understanding what the actual problem was, which was people in some cases either interacting with minors when they didn't realize they were interacting with minors, or taking people's content that they didn't want to have taken. Because there were people that would go to, like, off of Tumblr, Lolita blogs, or I don't know if I think they have, there was like, I think there is an EGL 4chan board or whatever, and they would get pictures from there and then, you know, edit them and put little text posts on them and things like that, and like basically steal content. And they couldn't separate stealing content from DDLG is bad and gross and pedophilia, actually. Like, you can critique the one thing that's bad and not just be like, okay, well, the reason this happens is because you're bad, evil people that like to role play with other consenting adults, ? It was very strange. So yes, I do think that there are a lot of people that do stigmatize DDLG and CGL within fashion communities, and apparently it just still keeps happening. And you know, this is something that used to be more prevalent because especially, I don't know, is this like, okay, people that have a TikTok, is it like this on TikTok? That's what I want to know. Is it like this on TikTok? Because I'm not on there. I don't plan to be on there because it seems like it would not be good for my brain. But if you are on TikTok, I would love to know if it's similar, because what would happen is you would, for example, there was, I don't know what name she goes by now, if she's still on the internet, but there was a really big content creator that talked about age play in particular and ABDL stuff, and she bought, was it Dreamy Baby Room? It was some like it was like an older angelic pretty dress that had like baby motifs on it. Like, it was like bubbles and blocks and like stuffed animals and things like that on the dress. And she bought it, and she either did an erotic photo shoot with it or literally just made porn with it. And like the Lolita community found out about it and like lost their ever loving minds. They were like, you destroyed the sanctity of this dress, because especially with this like alternative Japanese fashion, if you don't know, especially this kind of stuff, like, it's really hard to get certain pieces after they're released, and especially if it's been like 10 plus years since a particular dress came out, like, they get really rare. It's like any other kind of collectible, right? If they're like collecting like first edition Wizards of the Coast Pokemon cards or whatever, like, and so it's because it's really competitive and hard to find stuff. Like, people got really defensive that this thing had been used for the bad, evil DDLGs doing it in a sexual photo shoot. Oh no! It's like, that's the thing we're worried about, really? I don't know. I just have not ever seen it as like a huge problem, but it makes it really hard to be in those community spaces because, like, at least online. And this is the thing as well. Like, I think there's a big difference in alternative fashion communities online and real life. Because in online spaces, especially because there tend to be more minors, even people that don't really wear the fashion but are like admirers of it, they don't necessarily like know how to have nuanced thoughts about things, and are like, you're wearing sneakers? That is not real Lolita. You're wearing something from Dolls Kill? You're not a real goth. Every goth DIYs their clothes. Like, it's shit like that happens way more online than in real life. And because there's so much more like active gatekeeping about things, that attitude boils over into the way they treat a lot of other issues in the community, even if it's not about what defines the fashion. And with DDLG and CGL, people would treat it that way, and like, you would every month there would be like a post or some viral thing on the Lolita or like a J Fashion blog or something that would be like, why DDLG is a problem, and then everyone would be like, yeah, DDLG is a problem, and it would just be like fucking circle jerking about CGL bad. And so I stopped interacting with online groups around it entirely because it just kept happening so often. And instead, what I did is like, this is the thing that blows my mind, is because it is so different in the real life community. I know two people in my local Lolita community that I don't think are really like super active, but are definitely there, and I've seen them at events, like that go to kink events and go to Lolita events. Besides me, like there is an overlap. Almost everyone there is an adult, and like people don't really have a problem with it. Like they don't think it's like, and it goes to the extent where it's like wearing pleasers, like not like the open-toed pleasers you'd wear for like pole dance, but for like demonia, like big platform pleasers. Like it's like, oh, you're making it too fetishistic. Like they even get like anything that gets too sexual, because Lolita was developed as a way for women to express themselves for their own, you know, aesthetic reasons and not to appeal to the male gaze or whatever. And so because of that, they get really defensive about it becoming sexual. And it's like, I feel like Arrow Lolita has been around for like 25 years. I kind of feel like that ship sailed, but it's interesting. It's a thing that's ongoing. I don't think it's gonna stop. I'm not surprised to hear it happening in other communities. But this is all to say, like, I don't see something like that happening at that level with brats. I think age players and littles are like very uniquely stigmatized to a degree. That I think probably after that would be pet players, just because there's sort of that similar connection in the way that DDLG is connected with pedophilia. Like, pet play gets wrongly correlated with bestiality, even though like there's not one. Like the motivations are different. I'm not even gonna get into explaining it. They're like one is involving non-consenting animals and or children, and the other one is involving consenting adults doing role play. Like they're not the same thing. They're just on a factual reality basis, they are not the same thing. But a lot of people get them confused. And I would say, like, bratting is not something that people in, like, everyday life really know about enough to be like, that's bad. However, I would say in BDSM kink spaces and things like that, that bratting, it's like, it goes from, like, nobody knows about it to, like, everybody has an opinion about it as soon as you get in the community. And that I find very interesting, because it's something that doesn't get, like, recognized outside of those spaces, but then as soon as you get into those spaces, it's like every other conversation's about it, you know? Do you think pet play and DDLG are stigmatized in the same amount? No, I wouldn't say so. I think that it's sort of like a distant second, you know, and I'm not sure, because I'm not somebody that does CGL or DDLG, but I am a pet player. And though I have gotten comments over the years and confusion about the separation between bestiality and pet play, it does not happen nearly as much as it does with CGL. Now, if you go to like documentaries on YouTube that talk about pet play or show pet players, you definitely see a lot of people that are like, this is gross and weird, and like, does this mean they're having sex with their dogs, ? But in the community especially, like, that's not really there. People might find it kind of odd. They may not understand why people do it, but that assumption just is not there. I've never had that conversation or had that question brought up. Whereas a lot of people, even if they are kinky or they like kinky sex, they still go, that seems bad and weird, and I don't like that, because they don't know about it, you know? So, getting back to, now that we've ended my rant about Lolita fashion and J fashion, let's get back into talking about brats in the BDSM community. Yes, he's doing her little background honks. Maybe she'll decide she wants to be on the screen later. She did get a haircut recently for her 10th birthday. Bandit's 10th birthday. Tuesday the 1st, March 1st. The big 1-0. I'm so excited. I don't know if she's excited. I'm kind of debating what I want to do for her birthday, but it definitely involves getting some kind of like frozen dog treat situation. Something special, you know, something special. Alrighty. I'm curious what race or class you tend to prefer when you used to play D&D back in the before times. The most recent character I had before the pandemic started, I think was a tiefling sorcerer, but prior to that, I'd always played barbarians and like non-magic classes. I think barbarians were my favorite to play. But I haven't played that often in like a really long time, so I don't have any current opinions, especially because I'd only done very brief stints playing 5e, and prior to that I was playing Pathfinder. How are you doing, Evie? I am doing great. I'm loving the outfit today. I've been really stressed the last couple of days about like, catching up on YouTube stuff, and I think I'm in a better place now as far as like being caught up on stuff and like caught up with comments and things. There's only a lot of stuff I need to work on. I got to film a video for Patreon tomorrow to get that up before the end of the month because it is literally the 28th and it's the 25th today. So like the end of the month is like coming so fast. I feel like it went from the 9th to the 22nd in no time at all. Like it just went by in a blink of an eye. I feel like the beginning of the month was kind of slow, and then after that it just went like so fast. So fast. No spooky noises this week, please. I don't know what caused spooky noises before, but no, so far no spooky noises or sudden crashes or motorcycles or things going by. And you know what? We're gonna keep going in that direction, I hope. Honestly, I was seen and I love the Molgoth aesthetic as well. I never had a scene phase. I never had a scene phase, and I never had a pop punk phase. That was never anything. I mean, I think I probably wanted to be seen when I was like in 6th grade, but I kind of gave up on that pretty quickly because there was no way I was going to be able to bleach and dye my hair. So, we moved on. I do have a video about tickle torture, actually. For the person that was in here and asking about tickle torture, do I sometimes regret making that video? Yes. Do I have one? Yes. And this is why I don't talk about fetishes very often. Is as soon as you make a video about a fetish, from that point on, at least like almost in every live stream, I have at least one person that's a tickle fetishist that like is like, can I tell you about the tickle scene that I did? Can I talk to you in detail about the tickle torture thing that I did? It's like suddenly you attract everyone that wants to do like free phone sex with you about tickle fetishes, and they all like triangulate on your location. It's so, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how people find it. It's so interesting to me because I feel like unless it's a fetish, that doesn't happen. Like, I can make a video talking about MS relationships, talking about bloodplay, talking about CGL, and that doesn't lead people to, like, try and roleplay with me about the thing that I talked about, or tell me in detail about how much they love the thing. And I mean, it's literally, I think, because fetishes are directly sexual, and when you find out that a person on the internet is actively talking about the thing that you get off to, maybe that makes your brain melt. I don't know. But I don't know why. Just is a very unique thing that only happens with fetishes for some reason. But I do have a video about tickle torture, and it was a video that got really popular in the YouTube algorithm for some unknown reason to me, but it did really well, and it's out there if you want to see it. Selected editing for sensationalism and documentaries is rife and fuels the ridicule and public disdain for kink. I feel so sorry for people that were misrepresented. Advice: read the contract. Oh, absolutely. Like, I honestly, if anyone here for any reason ever gets contacted by Truly or Barcraft or one of those types of companies that does little mini documentaries and stuff for YouTube or for TLC, My Trans Addiction, like, just don't do it, because you as the talent on screen have absolutely zero fucking say in the edit, in the fucking music they use, in what things they choose to do. And I have heard time and time again from people in the community, especially with Truly and Barcraft in particular, that they really regret doing those videos because, they would film with someone for 2 days, and then the 12-minute video on YouTube they put out is 10 minutes focused on the 10-minute long interview they did where the producers were like, so tell us about your childhood. And then suddenly it becomes all about how CDLG is connected to childhood trauma and like just really gross stuff, and like people don't know what's going to happen beforehand. I would say, as a caveat to that, knowing that I've seen stuff like that, knowing that I've seen, for example, speaking of pet play, actually, you guys remember the video I did responding to Blair White when she watched a truly documentary about a pet player, and like I used it as a way to talk about the way that like documentaries and stuff are made, and you have to be careful like looking at the editing, because they very clearly like put in these B-roll shots that made a connection between like the couple's sexuality and their like pet dogs at home, and like it was very like gross, honestly. However, I didn't say this in the most recent video that I did, but the reaction that I did to the, what was it? It was like inside the world of financial domination, but then it didn't talk about financial domination at all, and it was really just about public humiliation. I did a lot of background research into the person in that documentary prior to filming that video, because I didn't want to fall into the trap of maybe Vice had made this particular narrative on purpose that wasn't representative of this person's like honest beliefs. That being said, though, having watched 2 other podcasts that this person did that were over an hour long, that had a video component to it, reading a half dozen articles that they did, including a piece of the New York Times, they said, you know, over the course of a year and a half, you know, on either end of this Vice documentary coming out, they have said the same 4 or 5 things in almost every interview they've done. They've told very similar stories, given very similar answers, and they've also done other demonstrations of humiliation on podcasts they've done with, you know, people. It's a vanilla podcast. It's not like a sex education podcast or a kink podcast. It's like, I don't even know, like a general lifestyle podcast where it's like, hey, we come on here and we talk about wealth and money management and dating and, you know, just like, you know, young adult life stuff, right? And so because they were so consistent for so long, and they also hadn't done anything on their Twitter, other social media, you know, disavowing anything or talking about the documentary in a negative way, they were very supportive of the documentary. They said it was a really awesome experience, etc. And also, Vice, of all the places that make documentaries talking about BDSM, that's like the one that I feel does the best job around at least trying to accurately frame what happened. Now, I will say, I don't know for sure whose idea it was to do the public humiliation in the documentary and go out to the park. My interpretation, my best guess, is that it was both something that was an idea the film crew wanted, because obviously you need to have, you know, a mix of indoor and outdoor shots, or at least some kind of contrast to, you know, keep things interesting visually for people that are watching the documentary. But then also, like, she's known for public humiliation, and they're going to demonstrate that and want to have a demonstration of that on camera to prove and demonstrate the things they're talking about. I feel like that makes sense. So, you know, if in any case, if the Mistress Marley ever comes out and says that she thinks she was misrepresented in the documentary, or doesn't stand by that stuff anymore, I will absolutely talk about that and like correct that. But my interpretation of it was not that it was a situation which so often happens in these documentaries, where a documentary company contacts a random C-list Instagram celebrity about their, you know, niche interest or TikTok or whatever, and they say, hey, you know, we would love to talk to you and offer to do a documentary for you, and like, you don't really get paid normally, you know, it's just like, it's exposure for you is kind of what it's about, and getting to represent the community, and you don't really get anything out of it. And that's how this normally goes with like other documentary companies. But anyways, that's my opinion about that. Spicy stuff. I know we're getting all the hot takes in here today, aren't we? All right, let's keep going. Can I ask anything about chastity cage? Well, it depends on your question, because I don't have a penis, so depending on what your question is, I might not be able to answer it. Okay, audio is good. I'm happy to hear it. We need this live stream. There's so many misconceptions about DDLG even within the kink community. Oh, for sure. BRB pouring one out for all the oppressed brats. But really though, listen, like honestly, like if you are a brat, I think that, you know, even if I think there are more misconceptions out there about people that do DDLG, CGLG, age play, I really love an umbrella term for all those acronyms together. Could we get on that, please? But no, seriously, I despite how I think even more maligned littles and age players are, I still think that brats get the short end of the stick in a lot of ways in the community. Yeah, it sucks so many people think that way about CGL. Reminds me of the bisexual stigma within the LGBT community. Oh, it's very much in that vein of thing. I wouldn't say it's a direct correlation by any means, but it's a similar sort of like somebody that's part of the club gets ostracized by different members of the club by not acting in the way that the other members of the club think that everyone should be acting. Like in sort of like, oh, you're not acting respectable, you know? There's always going to be one scapegoat in every group, especially when, you know, it is a group that is stigmatized by the outside. There are a lot of people that are more concerned with acceptability to the mainstream than they are with solidarity with others within their own group. And there are people that instead of having a big tent idea, they would prefer to have a narrow group that's the most likely in their minds to be accepted by dominant society compared to like being like, well, fuck you, we are what we are, who cares if mainstream society accepts us or not, we're going to be here for each other. And that's certainly something that causes a lot of issues. Isn't being bad naughty sort of an integral part of bratting? Like it's not oppression for people just not to have it be their cup of tea. So let's get back into sort of talking about the CGL, or sorry, not CGL, bratting thing. There are people, that do plainly state, and I would like to recognize this first, there are people who state, I don't want to play with brats. Bratting is not my thing. It doesn't feed my dominant energy. I don't want to be around it, etc. That is totally valid. Not everyone has to like brats or want to play with brats or be around brats. You don't have to like any particular kink whatsoever. Be that pet play, age play, bratting, MS, consensual non-consent, CNC, whatever it is. You don't have to like any particular kind of BDSM, any particular kink. And that's great. The problem is the way that is talked about and enforced, and I think sometimes used in situations where that's not really what's happening. Because I think, you know, let's give an example of something where bratting goes too far. Because there are a lot of people, and I've experienced this myself in my own community, there are people that are brats, though don't know how to put the brat away and brat when it's inappropriate around people that haven't consented to it. So, for example, you have people that are maybe bratting at a high protocol service party, and they think it's really funny to change out the sugar in all of the high protocol tables for the tea. Or I guess I'd change it from a dinner to a tea. Whatever. Maybe it's the after dinner tea. Moving on. They change out all the sugar for salt, and they think that's really funny and very clever, and then suddenly everybody's tea tastes like fucking salt because they didn't know it was salt and the other submissives didn't know that it was salt. If you did that thing in a kink relationship, which you are openly a brat and your partner likes that and they're a brat tamer, and this is generally something that's within the realm of thing you're allowed to brat about, that could be fine. However, when you're doing it in a group setting with a bunch of people that haven't negotiated with you, because for all you know, as a brat, your actions might be blamed on somebody else's submissive. They might assume it was someone else. They might assume that all the submissives acted together. They might assume we actually don't care if it was only one of you. Because you didn't stop this person, it's now all of your faults. Right? Everyone gets a punishment spanking. Everyone gets fill in the blank punishment. You know. People do often say things like, oh, I'm just a brat, it's how I am. Oh, I'm just bratting. And they minimize their behavior, even though what they're doing is non-consensual. The problem for me isn't just that people are brats, because I think bratting is a very valid and understandable way of doing BDSM. Because what bratting is about at its core is testing and pushing boundaries, because you want to be reassured those boundaries are there ultimately. You want to find out what's going to get you in trouble and have the reassurance that your partner cares about you enough and is tough enough and prepared enough to put you in line and be able to control your behavior and let you know what is acceptable and not. Bratting is about like feeling at the walls, basically, and knowing very surely where those walls are and testing them on a kind of regular basis. That's sort of how I conceptualize it. It can be more complicated than that and have different motivations, but that's sort of the general broad strokes, right? I think that's a totally, like, it makes sense. It's a role play framework. It's a brain framework for how you engage in BDSM, which I think is just as reasonable and understandable as anything else. However, you don't get to put your kink dynamic on other people that haven't consented to be part of that kink dynamic. We recognize and we call out in the kink community when people push their dominance on those that they are not in a DS relationship with. A lot of us, including myself, we've been to munches, we've been to parties where some guy waltzes in with a shiny new fedora on and thinks they can waltz up to anybody that they think is a submissive, which really means petite woman, let's be honest, because usually they think that all women are submissives. And only people, everyone that's submissive is a woman and all women are submissive. That's how their brains work. And they go, kneel for me. And you're like, what? Like, who the fuck are you? Like, you could be a slave to someone else and not respond to that order. That doesn't make you not a slave. It means that they were trying to push their dominance that was not negotiated around onto you without your consent. It is a boundary violation. Not good. Don't do it. Don't put your kinks on other people. It doesn't matter what it is. I also know people that do this with CGL and little stuff, where they go to a munch, they go to like a play party that's not specifically a CGL or little focused play party, and they go up to random people at parties and they tug on their pants or their skirt and say, you know, can you give me a juice? Like, cuddle me. Sometimes they can even be really demanding and just like not even ask, but like just fucking go up to you and pull on your pant and then just like fucking scream in your face like a toddler. And you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like, you know, it's like you didn't negotiate for that. And people get offended and are sensitive when somebody tries to say no to that or says, I don't want to do this right now, or walks away. And they're like, well, I'm just being a little. It's just who I am. Like, you're like, it feels like a rejection of you as a person, when what's actually being rejected is the behavior that you're forcing on someone. What's actually being rejected is a particular type of role play that person doesn't want to engage in. We wouldn't shame someone for not wanting to engage in consensual non-consent or CNC. We wouldn't shame someone who didn't want to have an MS relationship or who didn't want to be part of our high protocol party where everyone had to call every dom master or whatever. Like, we don't shame people for choosing to opt out of those things because we know that everyone has their own boundaries and limits and preferences. But for some reason, when it comes to certain segments of BDSM, because those things get so closely tied to identity and self, like the way you see yourself, that when someone declines that or says no or points out that you can't force that behavior on other people, like, then it's like, oh, well, you're just rejecting me. And I think it's really important, though kink is something that is close to a lot of our hearts and something that is like a defining part of who we are as people, that we have the ability mentally to know when it's appropriate to engage in that with certain people and not with others. You can still have that be something in your head that's important, but you have to know, like, hey, this has to go away for now until I get the okay. And if you're the kind of person that when you are in public and you're in a BDSM space, you need to be your full little self. You need to be your full bratting side and have everyone around you be okay with that. Like, in that case, you either have to go to themed parties where that's going to be the default expectation for everyone there, or you need to go to private play parties, really, I think. just because you want to make sure you're minimizing like other people feeling uncomfortable and feeling violated, or just like honestly just being violated because of that activity. So I do think there are legitimate times where people are do feel like their boundaries are violated by people that have certain kinks because of the way that some members act, which is really what the person in the original Reddit post that I brought up was talking about, is that yes, there are some bad apples, but why are we letting some of the bad apples spoil the bunch, essentially? And I think for a lot of people, they don't realize that it's only some of the bunch. Or there's not enough education around what healthy bratting and boundaries looks like. And I think that's really the problem, is there's not a lot of, especially like local community class level education around bratting. And so people go, well, the only brats they know are people that have done this. And so it seems to be a problem with the kink itself versus the way particular people are choosing to engage in the kink. So I think if we had more education around like what is bratting, what does bratting look like, ethical bratting, in the same way that we need to have education about like humiliation and the ethics of public humiliation. Like we need to have classes where people know more about what those boundaries look like. Because I know that not everyone does humiliation does public humiliation. I know there are people that understand those boundaries, and I wouldn't paint that with a broad brush, but the negative interactions I think stick out so much in people's heads that they have trouble letting go of knowing that, they have trouble letting go of the idea that everyone who does this thing does this because it's an inherent part of the kink. And I know there are people, like I think it's Michelle Fegatofi, who has a blog where she basically says that like brats aren't real. And I know that they're to speak to that part of the Reddit post, which is like, ooh, like brats are fake subs, or oh, you abuse your dom, and like, oh, you're not really submissive. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, a lot of people are brats. Like, I can't recall any interaction like that ever happening in real life at a party or a munch or discussion group or anything like that, where somebody's like literally in person said to someone, oh, you do this, you're not a real submissive. Because people are not that fucking bold in real life, generally speaking, unless they're, I don't know, a Twitch streamer at TwitchCon maybe. People are not like that in real life. They don't say things like, so I think that's probably more of an online interaction that happens, or people like make those kinds of assumptions where it's like, oh, you're not a submissive. Or people kind of say it like in private conversations when you're like, oh, what do you think of brats? And like, oh, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then they share their opinion. But I don't think people like respond to someone saying, oh, I'm a brat, with you're not a real submissive. Like, that is, again, differences between online communities and real life communities. I do think there is confusion about like, you know, I think there's people online that I think sort of go, well, you know, if you're bratting, then you're really just topping from the bottom, and that means you're not a real submissive, blah, blah, blah. That definitely happens. And like the so you abuse your dom thing, I don't even like know how do I like know? Like, if it's consensual, no. If it's non-consensual and it's hurting the dominant and they're having to routinely safe word out of experiences because their partner is taking things too far and is not accepting feedback about that and not changing their behavior, like, yeah, then you're getting into potentially like abusive or at the very least consent violation territory there. So I don't like, so the ultimate question of like, how do you break down this like brats are bad stigma that is so deeply ingrained? I'm conflicted about like what a solution for that would actually look like, because I think you know what they're saying about that it's really exhausting to have to constantly defend what you do is consensual, what you do is okay, and that what you do is valid. I think that constantly having to defend that is, yeah, I totally understand how that's like a really, really hard thing to have to keep repeating over and over again. I'm not really sure where the responsibility is for who has to or who should be correcting that stigma. I assume the answer is, are we going to bring up the woman who seems to come up every week and thinks brats are real? I don't think I've mentioned Michelle Figatofi in a while. That's who you're talking about. But I don't know who it is otherwise. But in any case, I'm not sure what the solution is for this. I imagine it's some kind of combination of both brats and the larger community working together. I think one solution for this is more open education around bratting, because secondary thing here is that class is not just for people who are brats. Obviously, the majority of people who go to a class like that will be people who are at least interested in bratting, but there are also going to be people who just want to know more about it. And seeing a discussion and a framework about the ways that you can do bratting in an ethical fashion, understanding the motivations behind it, understanding how to do it in a appropriately contained way, I think that will also help reduce a lot of the stigma. And then, I don't know. I feel like, because there's not like a ton of really, really prominent, kink educators or like sex educators that talk about this. I mean, I guess one thing is like more people that are brats, like very openly disavowing behavior that is non-consensual and not okay, and making it very clear that that's not an ethical thing to do and is not what good bratting looks like. And then like just early intervention with people that are doing things non-consensually and then dismissing it as being, well, it's just this, you know. LEX. Oh, does she not think brats are real? That's funny. I mean, she has no experience in the real life BDSM community whatsoever, so of course she doesn't. Listen, I've just gone on to just fully fucking roasting that girl. I don't care. So that's sort of my thoughts so far. We can get into maybe reading some of the comments, because I feel like the comments aren't really like actually offering solutions. Yeah, so like one of the top comment is like, in my experience, most dominants don't have any problem with brats in general and don't consider them fake subs or anything, but that also doesn't mean that it's something that they enjoy. So the majority opinion tends to be accepting but uninterested, which I feel like is, again, we get into like the sensitivity to rejection thing here, which is I do think that a lot of people are like aware of brats in the community, and there's some people like love playing with brats and get a lot out of it, and some people are like, not really my thing, but because they're uninterested, to somebody that's sensitive to that can feel like rejection and judgment. But I'm not sure. So I'm just gonna read out like two more things here. And then I'll move back into like answering questions and stuff. So one of the people on the Reddit thread said, I understand the urge to distance yourself from problematic brats and say we don't claim them. Somebody had said earlier that like that kind of behavior is totally non-consensual and like we don't claim them as brats. But refusing to claim them doesn't solve the problem. This is a come and gather your own situation. Brats need to actively be reinforcing boundaries and community values and calling out problematic behavior when they see it in fellow brats, which I absolutely agree with. I think you know, I don't think like if somebody is a brat and acting shitty, that doesn't mean they're not a brat and like not allowed to be a brat. It just means they're a brat that is acting shitty. Does that make sense? Anyways, oh, I saw a super chat. Oh, there we go. Cicero Dante says, random support for awesome stream, no question, just support. Oh, thank you, Cicero. I appreciate it. Okay, so the next part of this goes on to say, getting called out on non-consensual or abusive bratting by a dom, brat tamer, etc. is often still giving attention and reinforcement to the behavior that the brat is seeking in the first place. That is an interesting point. I will talk about that when I finish reading this. If you as a community are ignoring consent violations because you aren't the problem, you become part of the problem. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think, and if you're, will cautiously add here, if you are in a public BDSM setting, i.e., you are at a dungeon or you're at some kind of play party or venue that has dungeon monitors, that has people that are running the events, it is not your job as an attendee to directly physically interfere in something happening unless somebody's life is in danger. In pretty much 99.8% of situations, the only thing you need to do is point out that something is happening to a DM, and they will handle what is going on based on the policies of that event, and they are trained to handle those situations. So I don't think there needs to be like literal physical like breaking up things happening sort of stuff. But if you don't call it out and you're just saying, well, that's not what real bratting is, you could sort of I guess it's sort of a no true Scotsman fallacy in a way. But if you are only ever just going, oh, they're not really a brat, then like you can't recognize that there's something about this with doms as well, where it's like, there are people that are not really doms that use dominance as a veil to be able to get away with bad behavior because they realize that they could trick people into sending them nudes or getting money from them or whatever if they faked being a dom and played along over text or, instant messenger role play stuff or whatever. And they're not really dom, they're not really into BDSM, and it is genuinely a ruse. There are other people that think they're doms or are trying to be doms but act in shitty ways, And I think with bratting, I don't think people like fake being brats, but certainly not everyone has the education over like what ethical bratting is or what ethical BDSM looks like. And especially because I think bratting is something, and I'm not trying to say that like bratting is for new people, so don't take this way, but I think bratting is for a lot of people, a more comfortable and more like natural way of engaging in submission, because when you have struggle and fighting back and teasing as part of your dynamic, when you are then overcome, then it's kind of like the narrative, like you can say you fought back, like it helps you like mentally deal with the things that you do because, oh, you struggled, you fought back, it wasn't just that you were lying there and taking it, like you did something, right? I think that's sort of the sort of a maybe vaguely similar mindset with that. So I think that's a good point to make, is that dealing with bratting can be difficult because what a lot of bratting is looking for is like attention and time. And some people, in a weird way, I can see how they might be looking to brat because like, okay, if the goal of a brat is to do something that is out of line and then get punished for it, if they don't think complexly about the connections between the punishments and what happens and what goes wrong in the particular buttons they're pushing, I could see how they would be okay with getting called out by the general community or getting kind of almost humiliated by a dom or somebody they want to play with for like taking things too far, because they want like the verbal punishment of like being told that they're bad, maybe. So yeah, it's tricky. And so I think it's more effective for brats to call out other brats, because, and though I think doms and people should stick up for their boundaries and say, hey, I don't want to do this, you have to be very careful about doing it in a way that's not reinforcing to the brat, for sure. Bratting is a gateway kink? Yeah, I think that's can definitely be true. But again, I think a big part of this is just there's not a lot of education around bratting, because it's something that is, for a lot of people, they think is natural and intuitive. They don't ever question like the way that they're doing it and who they're doing it with and how they're doing it. Which even, kind of outside this conversation of, bratting and community stigma, I think a lot of people, part of the troubleshooting of having a brat-based dynamic is knowing which buttons are okay to push and which ones aren't. It's very similar to humiliation, I think, in that way, where like with humiliation, you're trying to find the things that are okay to push at that won't like send someone into a week-long depression spiral, right? Or an anxiety attack or being triggered in some other way. So, you might find out that, hey, for this person, their body weight is a huge trigger, and if you bring that up in humiliation play, that will be like emotionally devastating to them in a way that neither one of you want. But you can bring up their height, you can bring up their video game playing habits, you can bring up the fact they didn't do well in school, like, you can bring up other things, but that specific thing is not okay. And with bratting, you have to kind of learn, or ideally, though you may not necessarily know right away what will be okay and what won't. Ideally, you talk explicitly about what will be okay to push it and what won't. Or you even have like tiers of rules. I know brats that do this where they have like the these shall not be touched tier of rules, where like these have to be followed. These are basic guidelines, and if you don't do this, this is not a bratting fun situation, but a severe, unfun, legitimate punishment or potentially relationship ending thing. And then you have a second tier of rules that are maybe a little bit more fun and lighthearted and less serious, where you have the understanding that it's okay to poke at them. Like, you can't poke at the rule that says, the submissive will keep themselves safe whenever possible. Where, I don't know. Like, there's certain rules that you can't, like, fuck around with just because you want to fuck around with them. Like, you can fuck around with the, like, must drink 8 glasses of water every day rule, probably. But you can't poke at the rule where it's, like, the submissive will not embarrass the dominant on social media, Like, the submissive will not expose a picture of the dominant's his face to social media or FetLife or whatever. Messing with other people's possessions and touching people who don't consent is not bratting in the same way that non-consensual sex acts are not DS. The person may be a genuine brat in other ways, and they may just claim be a brat to legitimize it. Yeah. I think that's an important distinction, because I think there are, like I was trying to talk about earlier with like people that are fake doms, is when you violate someone's consent, what you're doing is not like sexy, kinky, fun times. It's violating someone's consent. And you can say, well, but I'm just a brat. Okay, well, like, when you do something to violate somebody's consent, and you're doing it in the context of like a power exchange relationship, like, in that moment, you're not acting as a dom doing a dom thing. You are being abusive. You are violating someone's consent. You're being a consent violator, even though they may have other activities around that are more bratting focused, like, teasing someone verbally or whatever else, something like that, All right, I feel like I should probably get into doing something with the chat, shouldn't I? All right, let's do that. CGL, sorry, if you didn't know what that is, CGL is caregiver little. It's interesting how DDLG burst into the mainstream a couple of years ago. I remember for a while that Melanie Martinez took over Hot Topic, and that's how a lot of people learned about it. People say that, and I'm still not. I've somehow avoided learning about Melanie Martinez. I remember she wore, like, her hair was, like, split colored, like it was pink on one side and, like, brown on the other. And I think she had some, like, aesthetic in her music videos look kind of like DDLG-ish. Is that still a thing? Is that still around? I do not know. You're not truly old until you remember Usenet. I've done Usenet, didn't like it, not user friendly. I never was on Usenet, so I guess I'm not old. As a 40-year-old bisexual, I've tried to be at peace with being forever misunderstood. You shouldn't give up trying to be heard, but it helps to be grounded in your identity and not need validation. Yes, I think It's difficult when you are in community spaces and you're trying to be accepted by a group or a community. But I think it is, if you can find your own internal validation and not seek it from others, and just know that you are who you are, and you know the kind of relationships you want to have, or the people that you have sex with, and you're comfortable with that, and they want that, and you know your partners are okay with what you're doing, then yeah, obviously, like, you don't necessarily need, like, group approval. And that shouldn't be something that you base your whole life around, because that can easily end up not being very durable. So Melanie Martinez, to be clear, I don't think that Melanie ever was, like, into DDLG personally. It just happened to be, like, an aesthetic of the moment. Like, it was just like, oh yeah, I like sort of, like, creepy, cute, sort of doll-like stuff. And then it sort of got extrapolated into other things that it wasn't necessarily related to. And yeah. Ooh, thanks for your video on finding your dom style. Yeah, for sure. I am so glad that you enjoyed that. That's sort of an older video, but I think it's been helpful for people. What did I miss? I don't think very much, because this was from a while ago, but I think I talked about fashion at that point. You missed some fashion rants. People can't disassociate the fact that DDLG isn't sexual. Yeah, I think a lot of people just have, like, I don't know, any kind of kink. People are like, they already think it's weird, and they think it's weird that you do weird sex stuff. They're like, oh, why would somebody be into that? And then you tell them it's not sexual, and they just, like, don't believe you. They're like, no, that has to be, you're lying to yourself. You're lying to us. You're just trying to pretend like it's not weird. But actually, it's even more weird that you would do this and not have it be sexual. Because, like, when it's about sex, like, vanilla people, at least vanilla people that aren't ace, I assume, being an ace person myself, I don't really interact with, like, vanilla regular ace people, because we don't actually tend to have a lot in common. But I think that there are a lot of people that just, like, get more confused when it's non-sexual. They're like, wait, what? What do you like it? Because, like, people understand orgasms. People are like, oh yeah, orgasm, good. Come, nice. Feel good. Yep, body, nice. And then when you remove that from the equation as a motivating factor, they go from, like, LOL, BDSM is when you need a bear trap on your clit in order to be able to get off, and I'm superior because I don't need that in order to have an orgasm. They go from that to just being like, what are you talking about? They just get so frazzled by it. But it can be non-sexual. Any kind of BDSM can be sexual or non-sexual. Different kinks certainly skew in different directions. Like, people that are into, like, cuckolding and stuff like that tend to be more likely to be into sexual BDSM. Other things, I think, are less likely to be purely sexually motivated, and for a lot of people, it can even be a combination of both. I know. The nuance is astounding, isn't it? Absolutely unbelievable. All right. Let's see what we got here. Where did my little chat go? Oh, there we go. I didn't really get why bisexuality is so misunderstood either. It's one of those things where I'm like, how does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening? Like, it's like, I know there was a time period where everyone was like, whoa, okay, first of all, we got straight people, and I just assumed everyone was straight, and now you're telling me there's gays and lesbians and a third thing? There's a third thing? No, my brain can only handle two things, gay and not gay. We can't have semi-gay. We can't have switch gay. Fucking two options only. I need to choose between vanilla and chocolate. No strawberry. No praline. No salted caramel. No moose tracks. Okay? Just 2 options. My brain can't handle it. And then they go, well, why does it matter? Can you really be bisexual? Because eventually you have to choose between one or the other. And it's like, you get it if it's part of your experience. Like, you get it. Like, when you're like, I can be attracted to actually more than one gender. Whereas people that are monosexual, okay, they're attracted to one gender only. They are like, it's like, do they think that you have to switch your gay versus straight brain on and off? Like, what do they think happens as a bi person? I don't identify as bi, but because ace is my primary identity, and that like overrides everything else, and I feel like it avoids a lot of confusion if I just don't use the term bisexual or pan or whatever. But like, it says that's how it works. But I don't know, because I don't really experience sexual attraction. I'm a romantic attraction human mostly, but to each thine own. I am glad everyone enjoys bisexual ice cream analogies. I hate it when I see people saying DDLG is disgusting. Like, I get it, it might not be your thing, but honestly makes me feel so gross and sad hearing that. Oh, yes. I think this is the big thing that people need to keep in mind when it comes to, like, your kink is not my kink, but your kink is still okay. Although, obviously, people outside of the BDSM world are not going to know or use that phrase, but I guess they could if they wanted to. But it's really sad when you go from I don't understand a thing to the thing makes me scared and I assume the worst despite my lack of education. I feel like this is something that like happens a lot with like live streams and like Twitter and things where you're expected to have a really like snappy quick reaction without like really doing a lot of research or thinking about things very deeply. Like, people just want your off the cuff feelings on something, and a lot of people, because they don't think about it and they just think of the visual associations, they don't think more complexly about like what could the motivations be, what are my assumptions, what are my biases, and so they go right to like, well, this makes me feel uncomfortable, so that thing must be bad. No other options will be considered, you know? Disappointing. Truly, truly disappointing. I'm cutting out the sound? Am I? Oh, am I still cutting out? I hope I have not had my sound been cutting out this whole time. I've been trying to look at the chat in case anything weird happened with the audio, but I wonder if we just like, my voice hasn't been peaking too much, I don't think. I'll keep an eye on it. Now with fashion, but lots of people who like choking, like to tell us that DDLG is wrong. People that are vanilla, that are like into choking and are like, I call my partner daddy in bed and I'm into choking, but like that DDLG thing is gross. It's like pot, kettle. 'Cause like, sexual conservatives that think premarital intercourse is wrong and will send you to hell are not going to make a distinction between you being into choking and somebody being into DDLG. And also, one of those things is much more deadly than the other. I will add that much. DDLG is not very likely to kill anyone. One of those things is pretty fucking dangerous, actually. And it's dangerous in a way where people don't even know it's dangerous. Like, they're just like, oh, I didn't like, fucking the studies around this routinely have people where either like a partner passes out and they don't know what to do and so they do nothing. Which, you know, if they have a head injury, it's better than like moving them around too much, I guess. But like, they literally don't even call the police or an ambulance or something. They just go like, oh, I guess I'll just leave them there and hope they don't fucking die. Like... Or they go, oh, I didn't know anything bad could happen. Motherfucker, what? You can't, there's so many scenes in movies where people get fucking choked and strangled and smothered to death. You didn't think, oh God, that might happen to me. Well, you know, people really just don't think through their things, do they? They're just like, yep, I like the thing because it make my genitals go burr, and I assume other things are bad because it's not a thing that I'm into, but the thing I'm into is fine. It's like, You know there are people that are going to be offended into whatever your thing is, right? So, you know, check thine self before you wreck thine self. Did any littles here watch Playpen Princess? Still confused about what happened to her. Oh, that name is familiar. Who is that? Sorry, I gotta check now. Am I gonna get, like, heckin' nostalgia from this? Probably. Why did I just say heckin'? What the fuck? Is this because I mentioned Reddit earlier? Why did I just say... What even fucking meme is that from? Okay. Okay, I'm so what the fuck? Okay, so literally, I went to YouTube, okay? I went to YouTube and I searched Playpen Princess. And the first video that comes up is that Playpen Princess is back as an e-girl. And then a message to Playpen Princess. And the downfall of Playpen Princess. It's all from the same channel called Pugapillar? Pugapillar? Who the fuck is this guy? Who the fuck are these people? Oh my god, somebody has a video called I Had a Daddy Dom Stalker. What is happening here? What is happening here? Uh-oh. Did something happen with, fucking what's her name? Binky Princess and Steve Up? Whatever. I don't know what his name is. What is his name? Because he has a video that says, it's just called Life Update. And then, excited to start the new chapter of my life. Did he, like... They got married, didn't they? That's so... I don't want to make somebody's divorce into drama. But, like, I didn't know that happened. It's so weird seeing, like, other YouTubers that you know. And are like, oh, yeah, this is a big... I mean, but, like, Binky Princess hasn't been, like... really on... She hasn't been on YouTube in years. I think she basically just, like, makes porn on Twitter. I think that's, like, mostly what she does. Whatever ends up happening to, like, DDLG YouTubers is almost always, like, pretty famous. Oh, no, she's on Twitter. She's still on, as Binky Princess on the Twitters. Well, I hope that she is doing well and living her best porn star life, I guess. I don't know. Don't really have any opinions about that besides that. Oh, internet history. Yeah, I can't find anything for Playpen Princess, so I don't know who that is. Did something happen? Is that like a big, did a big thing happen that I missed and just was not part of on the internet? I've also seen a lot of people on TikTok saying that there is not a reason that men need to hit women, referring to BDSM, or there is no need... Lord help these little TikTok people. What's going on with their little brains? They seem so confused. Okay. I was going to restart that. There are a lot of people on TikTok saying there's not a reason that men need to hit women, referring to BDSM, or there is no need for a safe word if you aren't participating in abuse. Bless your little brains. How did you make that connection in your noggin? How'd that happen? So I can I just make a request? Can TikTok stop using abuser language, please? Can we just, we need to put a complete moratorium on random internet personalities saying things like gaslighting and love bombing and abuse and narcissism without any, just context. No. When somebody ghosts you, that's not narcissistic abuse. That is just ghosting. Unless it was in a long-term narcissistic abusive relationship, okay? A random person you met one time on Tinder, went on one date on, and then didn't return your text messages, that's not narcissistic abuse. I'm just gonna stop overusing the language because then when you dilute the meaning, it becomes much more difficult to identify actually abusive patterns of behavior and just... I have feelings, I have opinions. But I can kind of see the logic if you are someone that has limited sexual experience, is not a member of the BDSM community, and has never done BDSM. Because they think, oh, well, if everything you're doing is consensual and you enjoy it, then you would never need for it to stop early, and you would never run into problems, and so you wouldn't need a safe word. And the only reason you would need a safe word is when things go wrong, and by things going wrong, they mean like somebody violating your boundaries and consent. Now, that can happen, right? One of the uses of a safe word could be for when someone does something that is explicitly against your limits or the stated parameters of the scene and so on. However, I would say most often the use of red is an unexpected emergency or an injury that happens outside of the control of either party. Like somebody suddenly getting a leg cramp, or suddenly having a panic attack, or or even the Dom having to call red because they realize the scene's gone too far outside of their boundaries. So like I can kind of see the logic of like, well, if you're actually really enjoying everything and everything is really consensual, then a safe word's redundant and pointless, and you'd only need it if it's bad. But like that kind of misunderstands like the nature of BDSM. Like it's like, imagine if you were like, well, if a car was truly safe, you wouldn't need an emergency brake. It's like the car can be safe and like meet safety requirements and be a good car to drive and be reliable and still need an emergency brake. Like the presence of the emergency brake doesn't mean the car is actually dangerous. Driving in general is a dangerous activity. Things can also go wrong, but it doesn't mean the car itself is broken, you know? Listen, I'm fucking glad I'm not on TikTok, because as far as I can tell, it just ends up being like hours of like doom scrolling and misinformation and people lying about being in the, just like people being just. TikTok, it's the entertaining equivalent of jingling keys. The short format algorithm just spreads ignorance and at lightning speed. It very much does. See, this is the thing. I don't think that TikTokers are educated on BDSM by 50 Shades of Grey. Because the main people, can we just this is my personal request to the BDSM community. And I'm not calling out anyone in particular here. I want to point something out, which is I don't think that 50 Shades of Grey is the sole source of every piece of misinformation about BDSM. On the video that I did on choking, there were multiple people that said, oh, well, the reason why choking is a problem is because people saw it or read about it in 50 Shades of Grey. I have read every 50 Shades of Grey book. I have watched all of the movies. Choking is not a central theme in that book. There are Benoit balls. There's flogging. There's bondage. There's sensory deprivation. There's taking off your panties in a restaurant. There's a lot of representation of a lot of different kink activities where somebody could get confused about how they're actually done. Like, for example, they do a flogging thing on the stomach, which is just, don't do that. That's bad. That's bad. But as far as I can remember, there's no choking in either form of the 50 Shades of Grey media. And then it becomes there's lots of sources of misinformation about BDSM out there. Especially there's lots of rough sex and so-called kinky porn that in no way reflects actual reality of BDSM. There are a lot of erotica books that contain rough sex or, what's the fan fiction term? Is it non-con? Is that the term they use? Like non-con stuff, or fetish stuff, or, things that certainly have maybe come on the heels of 50 Shades of Grey, but are their own works. And certainly things before that where things like choking were prevalent. And certainly in other forms of media that young people consume, they get backwards ideas about sex and backwards ideas about things from porn because we don't teach young people how to engage in those things and have a sense of literacy about the things they're engaging in and knowing what's safe or not, or knowing how dangerous something is, or knowing how to ask for consent and blah, 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 blah. But 50 Shades of Grey, you are giving 50 Shades of Grey way more power and credit than it deserves for being a bad thing. It was definitely in the cultural zeitgeist. It was definitely a moment. It definitely was published and became popular at a very particular time. But it wasn't original, is the thing. The reason it got really popular is because it was a perfect synthesis of a million other things that were also popular in that community amongst that readership. Because I've read like at least a dozen different kink and BDSM focused erotica over the years now at this point, stuff both published before and after 50 Shades of Grey came out. And you see the same tropes popping up over and over and over again. And when you're writing for erotica, when you're writing for the romance novel audience, you're writing to fulfill a certain set of requirements of including certain fetishes and ideas and tropes that people like see and then bookmark. Like the rest of the things around it don't really matter, but somebody reads one of those romance books to find the couple of paragraphs or the chapter that they can read that they find personally erotic. And so that's why you see the same things like popping up over and over and over again. That's why 50 Shades of Grey wasn't like the there are definitely, again, like it was definitely like a unique moment. It was definitely the thing that became really popular, but the things in it weren't really all that unique and special to it, other than like there hadn't been a lot of erotica that like focused primarily around like an abusive BDSM relationship. But it's like even that isn't that uncommon, because the tropes behind those characters' personalities have been the template of romance heroine and hero for the last like 50 plus years of publishing. So the fish out of water self-insert character female heroine, and then the overly strong possessive jealous rich guy boyfriend, like that's just like every that's like almost every erotica novel. So anyways, sorry for the 50 Shades of Grey rant, but I think it is important to notice that it is not always one person's fault. Uh-oh, somebody linked to a tweet. What did I do? What did I do? What is the tweet being linked for? I don't know. Okay, let's go into some more questions. Oh, that is interesting. I mean, there are people who say those who are smaller than a specific height shouldn't do sexual stuff because that somehow would promote child abuse. I was told that as somebody who's 5'9" / 148 centimeters. Is this the same Twitter logic that's like any age gap relationship is abuse? If you are a 20-year-old dating a 22-year-old, that 22-year-old is literally abusing you. Like, it's like that same logic. It feels like the same logic. Listen, if you're a short human, you are not allowed to be sexual because your sexuality is promoting child abuse. Absolutely fucking bananas that is a thing. Like, do I vaguely understand where they are coming from? Do I see how a non-critical, uneducated brain could reach that conclusion? Yes, I very much can. I can very much see how somebody would be like, oh, yes, I learned, I have been awoken to the fact that age gap relationship are bad. So therefore, any age gap bad. Yay! I'm helping prevent abuse from happening. And then the same thing happens where it's like, well, you know, young people are sexualized in the media, and that leads to people being abused, and abuse is bad. And so people that look like children, or that I think would look like children, them having sex is like a proxy for having sex with children. So actually, if you're a petite person that has sex, you're basically just enabling your partner to be a pedophile. Like, it's like not very logical, but it is like, I could see how you could arrive at that conclusion if you didn't like think about counter arguments very seriously. No, that is just absolutely ridiculous. I actually think, if anything, it is ableist and infantilizing to say that certain categories of people, like people that are short or people that have physical disabilities, shouldn't have sex because it's basically, like, air quotes, basically like having sex with a child. or promotes child abuse. Do you know what promotes child abuse? People abusing children, not consenting adults engaging in sex. Like, could you potentially make a stronger argument for that on the basis of like, well, there's a lot of people who are really popular in the teen porn category that are really short, and their popularity is based on the fact that they more closely resemble a teenager's body? Like, that is a little bit more of an argument, but I would counter that by pointing out that the teen category of porn hasn't been particularly popular over the last 3 years. Porn is cyclical. It is something that has trends to it. It comes and goes. I very strongly remember, 5 years ago, especially on Tumblr and on YouTube, like, people were absolutely losing their minds over the idea that, like, media has turned Western men into pedophiles because the teen category is the number one category on Pornhub, and this is proof that all men really want to have sex with women as young as possible. And I think that could be an idea to look at in, like, the research of, like, if you poll men that are frequent consumers of teen porn, how do their attitudes around, like, age gaps and preferences for, like, younger people, like I know a lot of people that say they prefer the teen category because it's a body type preference. Like, it's not an age thing. It's like your options are teen or MILF. And so if you don't, like, MILF being code for, like, big boobs and curvy, and teen being code for, like, petite and smaller breasted and, like, less curves, basically, like, because there's a correlation there, like, if you're not looking at the role play part of it, it's maybe more of a body preference thing. But in any case, the teen category has, like, completely fallen off. At least I don't know about, like, in the whole world, but on Pornhub, it's not even in the top 25 anymore. There's lots of things in the category on Pornhub, but in terms of searches, like, it's not in the top by a long shot. And that has been continually falling over the years. And so I think it's actually proven to be more of a trend where, like, now the top categories are, like, mom and MILF and, like, mature. Like, mature and MILF are both in the top 10. And I think MILF's, like, number 2 or 3. Like, it's up there. Like, hentai's number 1 and then MILF's number 2. Like, did suddenly everyone in the same generation have a huge reversal where they went from secret pedophile to secret, is there a term for when people have a fetish for older people? That would be like geriophilia or something? I don't know what the word would be. Like, did that happen, or was it just that, like, things get trendy, you know? Well, I think it's the MILF categories because that body type is trendy. Like, it's sort of correlated with, like, the Kim Kardashian type of body, I assume. Cougarism? No, I don't think it's like that. I mean, legitimately people that have a fetish for, like, grandparent age people, you know? I was being a little bit hyperbolic with that. If you see this, where's your collar from? It's very pretty. This is from the Kitten collection. They are on Etsy. I have been buying stuff from them for years. They make really good stuff. This is biothane, and you can wear it in the shower. It can get wet. It's really, really good quality. I've owned it for like a year at this point, and it's maintained itself very well. MILFs and DILFs, exactly. Listen, like, people think, listen, it's so funny to me. I could go, if I was a different kind of YouTube channel, I'd make a whole different video on, like, the differences in, like, romance movies as made by male directors versus female directors, and, like, casting choices. Because when you have a romance movie that's, like, made primarily by, like, male production, male director, male writers, like, they always pick a guy that's, like, an underwear model, like, attractive. Like, they're very, like, average attractiveness face, short haircut, no unique features, but, like, 5% body fat, and has abs, and is, like, 6'2". but has like a cardboard personality. And then like when women make romance movies, it's like Jack Black is a fucking in The Holiday, right? Like Jack Black is the romantic interest because he's a nice guy with a good personality that makes her laugh. like it doesn't matter. He's a short king in that movie. He is not 5% body fat. He's not 6'2". He's just a man that likes music and making people laugh, okay? And that's what women want. But for some reason, men are like, women all they want is men over 6 foot and they washboard abs. And it's like, is it really? Or is it just like, are you perpetuating the standard of what you think the masculine idea is? Because I have definitely noticed that when women make stuff, the bodies are much more diverse and the personality is much more important. But that could just be me. And then, silver foxes, right? What was the thing? Like, I know there's a bunch of, like, moms that have a crush on Anderson Cooper. And they're like, oh, he's such a silver fox, Like, even the age, like, breadth of, like, people that are allowed to be attractive are much wider, On TikTok, people can't even say terms to do with sex or kink because they'll get shadow banned or taken down, so they say smex. Oh no! Oh wow, that's taking me to like middle school Facebook days. Oh my god. Wow. I shouldn't be surprised. I really shouldn't, but here we are. I don't think I've seen anyone on TikTok talking about CGL or age play as a kink. Only a couple of regressors, and they still get people wandering into the comments and calling them gross. Oh yes, I ranted a time or two about the age play regressor people, because the problem is a lot of people who are age regressors also hate BDSM, and they're like, actually, you guys stole the term little. That is a term that belongs to the mental health community and people that these systems that have DID, and you are actually doing cultural appropriation, and it's like. Sometimes words can mean different things to different communities. I know. Mind blown. CBT has 2 meanings, right? Did kink do a cultural appropriation of cognitive behavioral therapy? I don't think so. But that being said, I think a lot of people, anyone that appears to at least be doing like something age related is going to get a lot of flack on TikTok. That's not surprising to me, and on social media in general. But a lot of people who are regressors are also anti-kink, so like that's kind of confusing, isn't it? Listen, we always give everyone a little bit of ASMR. We are here to please. Okay. I lost some of the chat, so just FYI, this YouTube has a limit on how far I can scroll back in the chat, so I probably did miss a couple questions in here, but just, let you know in case I don't get to your question. It may just be because YouTube ate the comment because it was too far back in the timeline. I don't even know what my label would be. I like taking care of others, pampering them, etc., but still being the dominant one. I like making them cry, and the whole idea of like a mindfuck. IDK, it's weird. I mean, I feel like that just sounds like a tough love caregiver. I feel like a lot of people actually have dynamics like that where, they like taking care of people and pampering other people, but they still want to be in control and they like still being able to consensually hurt people. I think that's actually a much more common dynamic than a lot of people give it credit for. Welcome to social media gatekeeping. Everyone's an expert these days. Oh, yes. And I think that, social media culture, I think, really encourages that because, especially if you're somebody that is like a popular person on social media, you got a million TikTok followers, you got over 10K on Twitter, whatever, everyone expects you to have your hot take on like literally everything at all times. And you can't have an accurate hot take about literally everything at all times. It's like you can't be that educated about that many things. And so instead of people saying, I don't know, or I'm not familiar with that, they just like spout off whatever their hot take opinion is. And they're just like, I could be wrong, but that's better than people hounding me to give a response to the latest drama, you know? Lurking, but I wanted to say you're also wonderful and supportive, and thank you, Evie, for doing these streams. Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you. Oh, wait. Wait. Did I not hear something? Wait. Back up. Back up. Did I miss something? Go back a second. Did I miss? I feel like I just saw something pop up in the corner of my eye in my stream. Did I miss a super chat? I think I might have. Where'd it go? Did I miss one? Oh, I can just probably... Where did it go? Did I miss something? Oh, there it is. Found it. Okay. This is from LJC Pineapple, who says, hi, Evie. Haven't caught a live in a while. Hope you're doing... how are you and Bandit doing? I was also wondering if you had any new ideas about Christian Grey actually being a little looking for a mommy ever since you mentioned it. I can't see it. Okay, so Bandit is doing great. Why don't I see if she wants to be on camera for a second? Hi, honey. The people would like to see you. Would you like to be on camera? Come here, sweetie. Are we sleepy, baby? Are we sleepy? Come here, honey. Oh, good girl. Yes, good girl. Hi, sweetie. Hi. Hi. Oh, you're so good. You're such a good little girl. Yes. Yes. Oh, actually, let me turn off my heater now that I think about it. It got toasty in here, didn't it? Yeah. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, good job. Good girl. Boop, 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 boop. Bendita time. You're such a good baby. She went to the groomers. And she got a haircut. And she smells like 20 dryer sheets. She smells like sticking your face into a freshly opened box of dryer sheets. That's what she smells like. Are you a good girl? Are you a good girl? Yes. Yes, so good. The groomer said that she did really well and that she loved everything and was so relaxed and she loved being brushed and she even loved the blow dryer and she loved getting a bath. She just loved everything. Yes. It took so freaking long to get an appointment for this groomer. Like everything pet related is backed up. So I literally like a groomer is like it's easier for me to get a hair color and cut appointment if I wanted one at literally any salon than it is to get her groomed because they book like 6 weeks in advance and like half the places around here are not even like accepting new clients. I'm like, what's this like like what? Like it's a dog. Like how is this so difficult? So if you want to make hard cash money, the solution is to become a dog groomer. They cut her front fur too short, I think. Oh, honey. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, did I squeeze you too hard? I'm so sorry. You're doing great. I know. I just want to make sure that people can see you. That's it. Anyways, dog moments. She's now going to sit on my lap until she decides she doesn't want to sit on my lap. All right. So little ideas for Christian Grey. I can't even remember exactly what I said in that video, but I do remember that concept. So I still would love to see that happen. I think that could be just like a really fun thing to do. I don't think he'd be an ABDL though, is the thing. I don't think he'd be like a baby, I don't think he'd be like a diaper wearer. I think he gives me more like toddler energy because he's like a billionaire. And I feel like most billionaires, especially billionaires with like giant Twitter accounts, tend to have like terrible twos energy, you know? They tend to have like real toddler energy where like they learned how to say no but don't really have a lot of other vocabulary yet. That's sort of the vibe I get from him. I mean, definitely, like, I could see like scene ideas for a book like that could be really fun. Like you know, like him having a room with a giant train set in it, like in the one like parody comedy news show clip that got really popular from what the fuck is like Corbin or something? What is his name? You know, the one like British comedian, the one British late night host. Girl with the Dogs is one of my favorite relaxing YouTube channels. She's a dog groomer. Oh, I love that one. She has a Pomeranian, you know. One of her own dogs is a Pomeranian. Exactly, is Boss Baby energy. I've never seen Boss Baby, so I don't really know what's in that movie. Because why would I watch Boss Baby? But I believe it. Oh, Richie Rich. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Him bratting, but it's him ordering too much room service at a hotel, and she's like, that's not in the budget. And he's like, I have no budget. I'm a billionaire. Anyways, I ordered 20 orders of waffles. Like, you know, because I'm hungry. He's like, I get hungry after I work out. It's National Pancake Day, or I ordered 30 pancakes. You know, like that kind of thing. Put him in the kitchen and just have him bang on pots and pans. Exactly. The adults have to work now. Here's some pots and pans to entertain yourself with. Oh, that's good stuff. What do you think, Banditi? No opinion. She's abstaining from any commentary relating to 50 Shades of Grey. I know, I am kind of a drama goblin. I'm gonna be honest. I hate gossip, but also me. Oh, tell us more. Like, I don't want to, like, I hate when people turn things that are not, like, gossip into things that, like, are, like, they treat it like gossip. Like, I don't think James Charles, like, routinely pursuing minors for sexual interactions is, like, drama, but people treat it as drama. But also, if it's like, hey, what happened to this old YouTuber? Like, I want to know. Like, what happened? Give me the deets. Give me the details. Oh, we're falling down. Okay. Are you settled in? Did we settle? Good girl. Gives me service dom, pleasure dom, any number of other dom types. Maybe not hard dom though. I do have a video coming out around pleasure doms. Not this week, but the week after it'll be out. So I've covered alpha submissives, soft doms, and now pleasure doms. Is there any other new terminology that I'm missing that needs to be covered? Because I thought about like maybe making a video on hard doms, but I've talked about hard doms in like the other videos because that's what, like, if you're not this, then you're this. Right? If you're not a soft dom, you're a hard dom. And it's like, I sort of defined it by like just being a point of comparison, you know? But also sort of because I don't believe these terms are for the most part useful or real or have existed outside of TikTok for more than like 6 months. So, you know. Sweetie girl, are you okay? Oh, look at that. We're wagging our little tail. What are we so happy and excited about, huh? What are we so happy and excited about? I know we're so relaxed. Anyways, sorry. I get distracted because my doggo is on my lap. Okay, wow, we have 10 minutes left. Let's go. Let's answer some questions. Okay. In fairness, the last community I was involved in had an absolute ton of brats, so it feels like the stigma is much more online. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I think, like I talked about earlier, I think the stigma with brats is, like most things, the gatekeeping is much stronger online than it is in real life. Uh, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Brats are submissives, and that is their specific fun, like any other sub that lean towards a specific draw. Yep, exactly. It's just like another role play framework, you know? Do you see being dragged as a common kink, like in a non-pet, non-forceful, but rather guiding form? Wait, what does that mean? Do you mean being dragged in the like being dragged on Twitter sense, or do you mean being dragged like being dragged behind a cart on gravel? Like, in either case, I don't think it's common, and I haven't seen that happening. Bratting is a gateway kink. It certainly is for a lot of people, I think. I think it's because it feels very safe and natural to people. It is sort of a safe way to explore kink before, like, maybe getting into other forms of role play. Oh, there's a spooky noise for the stream. Random car honking, 3 little car honks in a row for no reason from far away. Gotta love living in the city. Oh, the secretary? Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. There is bratting in the secretary, isn't there? Yeah, yeah. I could see that being influential on people for sure. Mm. Poppy asked, "Hi, I'm new to BDSM. I'm also gray sexual. However, my kink is super sexualized. Do you have any advices to explain this to a potential partner? Thanks. Thank you." Um, I think it depends on like what the connection between those things are. So I'm gonna like kind of give different answers based on like how I could interpret what you're saying. So what you describing that to me right now as somebody that both does BDSM and is also on the ACE spectrum. It sounds like what you're saying is that you generally don't experience sexual attraction. However, you enjoy some sexualized parts of BDSM that maybe don't include actual like penetration or like genital intercourse. Is that correct? I think like if you didn't want to, you could possibly get away with not actually saying I'm gray sexual and this is what this means. Because depending on the nature of the relationship you have with the person, that may not necessarily be relevant. Like if you're just like playing casually with someone, you could probably just say, hey, I enjoy my kink being sensual, or these particular kink activities feel more sexual to me, but I enjoy playing with that energy, but I don't necessarily want to actually have sex. And I think you can absolutely negotiate for a scene that has a sexual charge to it that doesn't actually lead to intercourse. Some people are going to be okay with that and enjoy that and also want that, and some people are going to be not so okay with that. Um, totally depends. But then again, I guess you could also say that the only time you want to have sex is while doing something kinky, and then you'd have to explain that. I mean, really, I think as long as you go into the details about where your boundaries are and exactly what it is you are and are not comfortable with, that's really what you need to be doing. So you could say like, I'm only okay doing sexualized stuff like within a kink scene but not outside of it, or I only want to have a BDSM relationship, I'm not looking for a romantic and sexual partnership at the same time. Like, there are definitely ways to explain this. It's just about like, you need to have enough self-knowledge to explain where those boundaries are to a partner. Does the color purple, specifically purple hair, have a sub meaning in BDSM? Dom or sub? No. Hair colors do not mean anything. Anyone of any hair color can be anything. Um, are you asking because Pup Amp recently dyed his hair purple? You can flag If you're using the hanky code and you're flagging with purple, that is for piercing play. So if you're into like needles and piercing, you flag with purple. But that's if you're wearing a hanky in like a pocket or like somewhere on your person, not like your hair color. Hi, sweetie girl. What are you doing? Your head is so squished. I don't know. She does this thing where like when I have my hand like I have my armrest for my chair and then I have like the top of my desk and the mouse, and she puts her little head in the tiny space between where my hand is and my arm is and where the armrest is, and she just wiggles right in there, and that's where she puts her head whenever she's up here with me, and it's very sweet. Mm. Never chastise someone else's brat. If you have a problem, address it with their owner. I mean, I guess that's sort of assuming that every brat has a DS relationship, and I think maybe part of the reason maybe why people are bratting inappropriately in public is because they don't have a partner that has set up boundaries with them, and so they're acting out and assuming that will get them a partner. I guess I don't know. Maybe that's not true. But I think if from the perspective of trying to avoid giving the person undue attention, if they do have a partner that's with them that's like their DS partner, then I think talking to that person and being like, hey, your partner did this thing that made me uncomfortable. Like that can be an appropriate way to have that interaction that maybe is more productive than like directly confronting them in like a, altercation kind of a way. Um, but like, I think it also depends on what happens exactly. Because I think you should be able to tell them to say like, hey, no, like, fuck off, if you want to. But also, I think it's worth bringing up and being like, hey, your partner did this and it made me uncomfortable. Because maybe they have they would know how to handle it better, maybe, or maybe they're not aware it's a problem, right? All right, I'm gonna try and get to one more thing here. I will say though, as a joke in regards to the hair thing, like there are definitely stereotypes you could make about hair. Like I could definitely make a Jenna Marble style video about like what your hair says about your BDSM interests. Because, listen, if you have a long hair with a side shave right here, or like a death hawk, and you have unnaturally dyed hair, or you have like dark hair in general, that definitely gives like rope bottom slash like bondage switch energy in particular. Like I know that I'm in the right place for a rope class if I see at least two people with a side shave or a death hawk in in the vicinity. um like that's how I know, right? There are certainly different hairstyles and stuff you could say are potentially correlated with it, but like as a joke, right? Like you can't tell what somebody's BDSM orientation is based off of just a haircut. Like there are kind of funny correlations you can notice, but it's more about it being an inside joke within the community than being like, this is how you can find true submissives in the wild. If you see somebody with bleached blonde hair that's past shoulder length, there's an 86.3% chance that they're submissive. Like, no, that's not how it works. You gotta know not to take it seriously. I have a mohawk. What's a stereotype for me? Um, either a power bottom, I get like power bottom energy for that, or like a dom that's like really into some kind of unusual kink, like somebody that's really into like pirate role play or um like bondage, maybe, I guess. Oh, no, no, no. Definitely having purple hair is not the equivalent of like pineapple stuff to show you're a swinger. It's just that I think, when you're in an alternative community, when you're queer, when you're in the BDSM community, when you're polyamorous, you're more likely to be alternative and like express other alternative things. One of which is going to be like having unconventional hairstyles and hair colors. And also, it's TikTok. Like, that is not by any means a representative sample. I think I've seen one person in my local community that consistently has like colored dyed hair. Wait, pirate roleplay? Wait. Okay, I missed something. Who has a prosthetic eye? Wait, what? Um Listen, I just thought mohawk and I thought of pirate metal, okay? I don't know. Walking the planking. Listen, I would love it if blindfold someone, take them to a gymnasium with a foam pit, and then walk them off the diving board while they wear a blindfold, and so they can walk the plank into the foam pit. Like, that would be great. Oh my gosh. I have a kink that I'm kind of ashamed of. How to ask my girlfriend to try it. I'm kind of scared. I have videos where I talk about how to talk to your partner about kink. Unfortunately, I don't have time to give a full answer here. Um, but short, quick tip is do not make it a grand dramatic reveal like the final episode, a season finale of like a drama TV show or whatever. Bring it up casually, introduce it with some kind of media maybe that has it in it in some way so you can say, hey, what do you think about this? Have you seen this before? Did you see this TikTok? And get a sense of what they think about it before you insert that it's a thing that you're into. And then if they seem to be at least mildly receptive to the idea of their concept and are not like disgusted by it, then you proceed on to being like, actually, this is something that I might be into. What would you think about trying something like this? And then you have that conversation. All right, I'm gonna try to answer one more question here, and then we're gonna go on. We're gonna go on. Okay. Let's see. All right, let's see. No sound problem. Listen, it's a mistake that we taught vanilla people what the term kink shaming is. That should have never left the community. The fact that vanilla people can now say the phrase, I don't want to kink shame, but, or they're like, I don't kink shame except for this thing which deserves to be kink shamed. Like, no, shut up. I know so many streamers, like if somebody gets a streamer to like watch a video of somebody, like a TikTok or whatever, of somebody doing pet play or like DDLG, they're like, I don't normally kink shame, but like this, I'm going to kink shame. I'm like, well then you missed the fucking point of not kink shaming then. Because like, if you were just gonna kink shame the whole time, then like, why say you're not gonna do it? You know? You have such tiny little paws. Look at your little toe beans. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the Binky Princess tea is that they were married and then they got divorced and now Binky Princess is dating someone else. Well, there you go. That is a common part of the life experience. I'm glad I've never been married. I would hate having to get divorced. That would be so depressing. I would not have a fun life. Playpen Princess deleted all her videos out of nowhere and then started posting gaming videos with her boyfriend instead, and now I think those are gone. I'm not sure. Interesting. I wonder if that was like a oh no, my job found out kind of situation. That would be my guess. I'm not kink shaming until I actually see something that I can't understand the appeal of. Yeah, and then you kink shame because then you miss the point of like, why kink shaming is bad. Like, like the phrase kink shaming is not for like flogging. Like, generally it's for the stuff that's much harder to understand. I live the lifestyle. I am a BDSM lifestyler. That is me. Okay, Bendita Barita, do you want to say goodbye to the people? Do you want to say bye-bye to the stream? You want to say goodnight? Oh, our tail is going. Our tail is wagging. Yeah, good girl. All right. I don't know how I can show her little toe beans. She says bye-bye. 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 Don't sneeze in my face. That is the peril of having a dog, and sometimes they sneeze in your face. Okay, so this is going to be the end of the stream. Thank you so much, guys. This was great. This is such a fun time. I had a great time. Bandita had a great time. And yeah, there will be a video, I think, coming out either tomorrow or Sunday. And I hope that you all stick around and you watch that. If you have not, if you somehow randomly found this stream and don't know who I am, please do subscribe. And thank you all again so much. Have an amazing, fun, and safe weekend. And I will see you all soon.